Hello. A couple of weeks ago, I said that I'll be talking about plants again and sharing some of my own with you. Well, the time has come. It is summer now, my plants are really growing, and I just want to show you a few because honestly, I think they're gorgeous and I want you to appreciate them too. Of course, we'll be learning a bit along the way because I can't just show you plants without sharing some interesting facts, passing a little knowledge. Also, you might notice a change of scenery. We are in my kitchen today, and I'm probably going to stay here until the heat comes down because my workroom is just too hot and turning on the air conditioning makes too much noise, so this feels like the best spot. Plus, I have more room here, and the kitchen is actually pretty nice. It's green, which is my favorite color. Now, I have quite a few plants, so I won't be able to show them all, but I picked some that I think you might like. So when we talk about plants, herbs, and flora, it's such a broad topic that it can be hard to know where to start or finish. Now, I've been into plants and herbalism for quite some time, studying extensively. Well, maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but I read a lot. I practiced a bit, grown many different kinds of plants, and one thing I'm absolutely sure about is that I love it. It is a fascinating field that brings me a lot of joy. Now, herbalism can also overlap with occultism when it includes spiritual, folkloric, or magical aspects. So here's what I'd like to do. I'll show you some of my plants. Most of these will be completely unrelated to today's topic. I'll share a few thoughts about each one and along the way offer some interesting facts about herbs and plants that you might not be familiar with. Okay, so let's begin. So in ancient thought, nothing in nature was separate from the heavens. The stars were not just distant fires, they were forces shaping life on Earth, including the growth and power of plants. Philosophers like Paracelsus in the 16th century believed that herbs were signatures of the stars. And he wrote something like, each herb is born under a planet, and its virtue is determined by its celestial parentage. Now, even before him, Pliny the Elder in 1st century Rome said that no plant grows without a star's influence. Brief interruption. I recently had a moment of self-reflection, and it is safe to say I realized my true talent definitely is not showcasing plants on camera. So my apologies in advance. Many of the plants I'm holding in the video ended up a bit blurry. Maybe they're camera shy. But I've included clear photos so you can actually see what they look like. As for the lighting, well, something strange is going on there too. I'll definitely be working on improving that. Also, the camera image is crooked, so much for proper preparation, but stranger things have happened. Now back to where we left off. And here are a few of my philodendrons. I mentioned them in a video a couple of weeks ago. Now, first up is the philodendron majestic, and yes, it really does live up to its name. This one is a hybrid between philodendron soderoi and philodendron verrucosum. It is a climber, so it needs a support pole. Now, this one is also ready for a repot, which I'm planning to do this weekend. Next is Spiritus Sancti. Now this little one is obviously still a baby, but even at this stage it is quite special and still pretty expensive. I'll insert a picture of a mature plant so you can see what it looks like in his adult stage. It is considered rare. Well, let me clarify. It is native to a small region in Ecuador and Peru, and because of overcollection in the wild, it's become rare in nature. Now, this plant is an epiphyte, which means it can grow on other plants like trees, so it needs proper vertical support. Now, while it's young, I'm trying to train it to adapt to normal house conditions, so it might not require high humidity. We'll see how that goes. It's a slow grower, but I am patient. And one more. This is Philodendron caramel marble, also considered to be somewhat rare, and mine is still quite young. Now this variegation, it's not always consistent, so every leaf can come out looking different. It's always a bit of a surprise, which I love. Now I have lots more philodendrons, but these are the ones that I can easily show. Some of the others are pretty large. Alright, now let's switch gears and talk about some historical facts about herbs and plants. So the Sumerians and later Babylonians were some of the first to write down detailed astrological observations, and they connected this directly to medicine and magic. Cuneiform tablets list herbs used for exorcisms, fertility, and prophecy, usually under specific lunar or planetary phases. For example, the god Nabu, which is associated with Mercury, governed intellect and writing, and plants used for mental clarity were harvested on Wednesdays, Mercury's day. Timing was everything, and rituals required collecting herbs during specific planetary hours to maximize their potency. Now, in Egypt, plants weren't just ingredients, they were divine. The blue lotus, for instance, wasn't only a symbol of the sun god Ra, it was a psychoactive flower used in temple rituals to induce trance states. Egyptian priests practiced a form of astrological medicine, aligning herbal treatments with planetary and solar cycles. Now, Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, was invoked in healing rites involving herbs and sacred oils. In the Ebers Papyrus, dating back to 1550 before Common Era, there are over 700 plant-based remedies, of which many correlated with lunar and solar timings. In Greece, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, used herbs to balance the four humors, and each humor is tied to planets and elements. Later, Galen and Dioscorides created massive herbal texts that influenced medicine for over a millennia. But it was the mystical side of philosophy in figures like Plotinus and the Neoplatonists where astrology and herbalism merged fully. Plants were seen as ensouled by planetary forces. In ancient Greece, magic and medicine blurred. The word pharmakeia meant both remedy and sorcery. The oracle of Delphi, Pythia, chewed bay leaves and inhaled vapors to commune with Apollo. The bay tree was sacred, and its smoke was a shield against evil. The Maya and Aztec civilizations used highly advanced calendars to time everything, including the planting, harvesting, and ritual use of herbs. The Tzolk'in, the sacred 260-day calendar, was used to guide when to use certain plants in ceremonies. Now, many plants used were entheogens, so psychoactive substances like morning glory seeds or psilocybin mushrooms. These were seen as tools to communicate with gods and ancestors. Now, these plants were used by priests and diviners under specific astrological conditions, usually aligning with Venus, a major deity in both cultures. Then medieval and Renaissance Europe, this was a time of magical grimoires, herbal compendiums, and astrological healing. Nicholas Culpeper in the 17th century cataloged herbs according to planetary rulerships, and he wrote, "Rosemary under the dominion of the sun strengthens the heart and spirit." His work was influenced by astrology. Herbs weren't just classified by physical traits, but by their planetary governors. Alchemists like Agrippa and Marsilio Ficino combined plant lore with magical theory. Ficino wrote of talismanic magic using herbs gathered under specific planets to attract love, wisdom, or spiritual insight. In occult traditions, herbs played a role in protection, summoning, divination, and transformation. So mugwort under the pillow was used to induce prophetic dreams, mandrake root as a protective talisman if harvested at the right astrological time. The lunar herbs like jasmine and poppy were used in dream work. Saturnian plants like rue or cypress were associated with banishing and protection. Occultists believed that timing a harvest to the planet's hour or day infused the plant with maximum magical charge. And today, there is a revival of these traditions. Astrologers are looking again to herbal correspondences. Practitioners of green witchcraft blend ancient planetary rulerships with local plant knowledge. And now let's take a look at a couple of my anthuriums. So this one is Anthurium dark phoenix. It is a hybrid cultivar, and hybrids are usually a bit easier to grow in regular home conditions. Now, most anthuriums need a very specific environment and really high humidity, but some can be a little bit more forgiving. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this clearly on camera, but the leaves are a very dark green and sometimes they almost look black, which is where the name comes from. Next, I have this hybrid or a cross between Anthurium radicans and luxurians. It has these really cool textured leaves that are also quite thick, and this one's been fairly easy to care for. Now, I do have other anthuriums, but some of them are in a grow tent since they need more humidity. A few are still very small, so babies. But in general, all anthuriums, no matter the type, need specific watering and feeding routines. They're definitely not great for people who tend to underwater or overwater their plants. So herbs are most effective as remedies when they're harvested at the right time, specifically during the planetary hour governed by the planet that rules that particular herb and when the herb is at its peak. Now, their healing power is based on the principles of sympathy and antipathy. So, for example, an illness influenced by the planet Mars can be treated in different ways. So, let's say by using herbs associated with Saturn through antipathy, or by using herbs ruled by Mars itself through sympathy. In this context, sympathy and antipathy refer to how different energies or forces interact in nature. Sympathy means that a herb shares a natural affinity or harmony with a planet or condition, so it supports or strengthens that energy. And when you treat a Mars-related illness with a Mars-ruled herb, you're using the principle of sympathy to restore balance through similarity. On the other hand, antipathy is the idea of opposites counteracting each other. So if a disease is caused by too much of Mars's fiery aggressive energy, you might use a Saturn-ruled herb, which is cooling and grounding, to oppose and calm that excess, restoring balance through contrast. When working with herbs, it helps to follow the planetary hours. Each planet has a special energy that supports different kinds of herbal work. So during sun hours, especially on Sunday, it's a great time to harvest sun-loving herbs like rosemary, calendula, or St. John's wort. These herbs support health, clarity, and confidence. You can also make oils for self-esteem or masculine balance during this time. Now, moon hours, especially on Mondays, are perfect for watering your plants, planting dream herbs like jasmine, mugwort, or even cucumber. It is also a great time to tune into your intuition, work on fertility, or charge moon teas and waters. Also, during waxing moon, plant above-ground crops, and during waning moon, plant roots, prune, or harvest. Now, during Mercury hours, especially on Wednesdays, you can make tinctures, write labels, talk to your plants, or prepare herbs like lavender, mint, or fennel. These herbs help with the nerves and digestion. Now, Mercury time is also good for studying herbal medicine or mixing up more complex blends. Venus hours on Fridays are great for anything to do with beauty, love, and scent. This is when you might make love potions, face oils, or perfumes using herbs like rose, hibiscus, thyme, or violet. It is also a good time for gentle pruning or propagating plants. On Mars hours, especially Tuesdays, go for bold, spicy herbs like garlic, nettle, or basil. This is a good time to make remedies that energize or protect, and even to craft herbal tools for courage or strength. Jupiter hours, especially Thursdays, support abundance and expansion. It is a great time to harvest uplifting herbs like dandelion, mullein, or sage. You can also use this time to make different kinds of remedies or do growth rituals. And during Saturn hours, especially on Saturdays, focus on structure and protection. You can prune, start compost, or work with grounding herbs like comfrey, horehound, or elder. It is a good time for making boundaries, doing banishment work, or preparing remedies that support the bones. Now, I don't know if I can say this with 100% certainty, but I think cacti and succulents could be my favorite plants. Now, in botanical terminology, cacti are succulents, but not reverse, because many succulent plants are not cacti. So when we look at cacti and succulents in the context of astrology and occult practices, they may not be as prominent as traditional herbs, but they still carry important symbolic meanings and have been used in protective and spiritual ways across different cultures. Now, because of their ability to thrive in tough conditions, cacti and succulents often symbolize resilience, protection, and endurance. In medieval Europe, for example, thorny plants were commonly used to protect homes and sacred spaces from negative energies and evil spirits. And this practical use reflects a deeper spiritual belief in the power of nature's defenses. And here are some of my own succulents. And I actually have quite a few. I'll insert a picture of the ones on my terrace during the summer. I also have others growing indoors. It was hard to choose which ones to show, but let's start with this one. So this is Crassula Buddha's temple. It is a hybrid between Crassula pyramidalis and Crassula perfoliata. It likes full sun, but only for about 3 to 4 hours a day, so I usually put it outside in the morning. It doesn't grow very tall, probably no more than 15 centimeters. Now, I have a lot of Crassula species, and they're actually what got me into succulents years ago. Next is this one, Echeveria hanecada variegata. Depending on how much light it gets, the leaves can turn quite pink, but it doesn't really like hot midday sun. Now, about the pronunciation of Echeveria, I say it this way because the genus was named in honor of Atanasio Echeverria y Godoy, a Mexican botanical artist back in 1828 by the French botanist de Condot. He was impressed by Echeveria's drawings, so in my mind, this is the correct way to say it. And this one is Placepilos Nelly rubra royal flush, also called the purple split rock. It had a pretty pink flower in the spring. It loves the sun and doesn't need frequent watering. It's super drought tolerant. In winter, it goes dormant and should only be watered when the soil is totally dry and the leaves start to feel soft. But that's not the case right now. Now, I've had this one for a while and I absolutely love these kinds of plants. All right, let's move on. In astrology, succulents are linked to the zodiac sign Capricorn, which is associated with earthiness, strength, and persistence, qualities these plants naturally embody. Now, ancient Greek texts don't specifically mention cacti or succulents, but the themes of endurance and protection they represent align well with broader elemental correspondences that both Western and Eastern astrology emphasize. In traditional astrology and occult symbolism, cacti and succulents are most closely associated with Saturn due to their ability to survive in harsh conditions, their slow growth, and their natural defenses like spines. Now, some, especially the spikier varieties, also resonate with Mars, reflecting qualities of protection and survival. Succulents with healing properties like aloe vera can be linked to the moon, symbolizing nurturing and restoration. Overall, these plants are deeply grounded in the earth element. They embody resilience, endurance, and the silent power of persistence. But also Mercury, because he rules plants that are quick to propagate, highly adaptable, or used in medicinal formulas, especially those with cooling or soothing effects. In Mesopotamian writings, the symbolism of plants that endure harsh environments was important in their mythology and magic, though they do not exactly mention cacti or succulents. And in Eastern tradition, succulents are seen as symbols of spiritual nourishment and healing because of their ability to store water and survive drought, both metaphors for sustaining life and inner strength. Now, one example from outside these regions is the peyote cactus, which has been used by Native American cultures for thousands of years in spiritual rituals focused on healing, visions, and divine connection. Aztec priests used it in sacred rites to see into the realm of gods. Now I have to talk about Hildegard of Bingen, a 12th century Benedictine abbess, scholar, mystic, prophet, composer, also a herbalist, overall a very interesting female figure, and she often wrote about the protective power of plants, also mentioning those with thorns or sharp edges. Now, though she didn't specifically mention cacti, her emphasis on protective plants fits well with how succulents are viewed in occult and folk practices. Now I'll talk about some of the plants she mentioned in her works, which were approximately 230 to 300 different plants and herbs in her main medical text, Physica, but also in her Causa et Curae, and this number depends on how one counts variants and groupings. Now, she saw each herb as part of a divine order created by God for human healing. So let's begin with the fig. Hildegard observed that the fig is good for those who have a weak stomach and cannot digest food well. She wrote that its mild laxative properties help soothe the digestive system, making it a remedy for gastrointestinal discomfort. Black cumin holds a special place in her pharmacopoeia. She described it as a seed that strengthens the whole body and protects against various illnesses. The oat, or Avena sativa, was noted by Hildegard as a great strengthener of the nerves. It was used to calm stress and replenish energy. Licorice was praised for its sweetness, and it was said to be good for those who have a dry and sore throat. Its anti-inflammatory and soothing effects made it an effective treatment for respiratory and digestive ailments. Now, cinnamon was described as a warming spice that warms the stomach and heart and brings cheerfulness to the spirit. Rue, a bitter and potent herb, was advised to be used with caution, and Hildegard stated, "Rue is bitter and hot and must be used sparingly, for it clears the mind and protects against evil." Then fennel, with its distinctive anise-like aroma, was said to clear the eyes and bring joy to the heart. Its benefits for digestion and respiratory health were widely acknowledged. And lavender was esteemed for its calming and purifying effects. And Hildegard wrote that lavender is warm and dry, its smell clears the eyes and removes what is bad in the blood. And it was used to alleviate melancholy and promote emotional balance. As for the spiky one, she wrote about bramble, for example. Now, this is the blackberry bush covered in sharp thorns. Hildegard saw it as a powerful healing plant, especially useful for treating wounds and calming inflammation. Now, the thorns weren't just a defense mechanism, they symbolized protection and resilience, qualities that made the bramble both physically and spiritually important. Then there's hawthorn, another thorny plant with sharp spiky leaves. Hildegard recommended hawthorn mainly for heart health. She believed it could strengthen the heart and improve circulation. But beyond its healing power, hawthorn was also thought to be a protective plant, guarding the body and spirit from harm. Now, nettles are a bit different. They don't have thorns, but are covered in tiny stinging hairs that cause a sharp sting when touched. Now, despite this, Hildegard used nettles to cleanse the blood and ease joint pain, showing how even the prickliest plants can have restorative and cleansing effects. And burdock, which doesn't have thorns but produces burrs that stick to clothes and animals. She valued burdock for its ability to improve skin health and purify the blood, making it an important plant in her herbal toolkit. Now, what is especially interesting is how Hildegard combined practical healing with spiritual symbolism. So thorny plants weren't just physical remedies, they were also seen as protectors. Now, what makes Hildegard's approach unique, even today, is how she saw the body, soul, and nature as interconnected. Each herb not only healed the flesh, but addressed emotional and spiritual imbalances. So her medicine was holistic before the term even existed. Now, I'll be honest, part of the reason I make these videos is totally selfish. Now, I have a strong Mercury in my chart, which basically means I learn fast, but I also forget just as fast. So by making these videos and preparing for them, well, this is my way of forcing my brain to actually retain the information instead of letting all of it vanish away 5 minutes later. You know that saying, repetitio est mater studiorum, repetition is the mother of learning? Yeah, well, I need a lot of repetition. I mentioned I'd share some simple plant rituals, and here's an easy one to start with. You can try it on a Monday, which is linked to the moon and its lunar energy of emotions, intuition, and dreams. Use moon-aligned plants like mugwort, jasmine, or chamomile. Surround yourself with calming colors like silver, white, or pale blue to set the mood. You can sip a moon bath tea made with chamomile and mugwort, or dab a little jasmine oil on your wrists. Light a white candle and sit somewhere quiet and dim. Take a few moments to tune in and reflect on your feelings, or write down any dreams you have. Then offer water to a houseplant or one outside, and as you pour, speak your emotions and wishes into the water, letting your intentions flow through you and into the plant. And this simple ritual can be done every Monday, and over time it helps deepen your connection with the moon's rhythm and the plants around you. Now, even small acts like lighting a candle beside a herb carry meaning when done with intention. So thank you for being here today and exploring herbs and astrology with me. Like Hippocrates said, nature itself is the best physician. And maybe that's still true. There's so much wisdom in the plants around us and in the stars above. And even now, when we drink chamomile or mint tea to relax, light incense to focus, or keep herbs in our homes, we're continuing a tradition that goes back thousands of years. The real gift of astrological botany isn't just healing or power, it's connection. Planets aren't silent and the stars aren't that far away. They speak the same symbolic language. And when we grow, gather, and heal in the rhythm with the sky, we reconnect with something ancient. We become a bridge between earth and sky, just like our ancestors once were. I hope you found this interesting. If you did, let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you again next week as we dive even deeper into the magic of the cosmos. Until then, take care and stay curious. Bye.